Well, I don't know who all is slated to show up, but based off y'all being in communication, would you say
It's a comprehensive.
this is probably it?
Mhm.
Okay, good deal. Well, I appreciate y'all coming out. Probably the first thing I want to do is show you the attachment that we put together. That is obviously the plan that we submitted to planning board under the MXR zoning. The second one is probably what would be a use by right zoning under the RA3, which really doesn't decrease the density at all. Adds probably about 2,000 to 3,000 linear footage of road to the subdivision and reduces all the common element. The one on the right doesn't even require rezoning. That is site plan approval. That doesn't even have to go to the county commissioners. So we feel like that is a terrible plan B. The ponds can be drained. You're getting more into the floodplain. You're taking all of the amenities and restrictions, things what we want to do from an HOA standpoint, different price points, different products. You're taking all of that and you're essentially throwing it away to get the exact same thing with lots that really aren't even that much larger. The RA3 zoning allows for a 15,000 square foot lot when you have public water and sewer. And I would say that our lots are probably somewhere between 10 and 20,000, depending on where they end up being on the project. So there are some that would be a little bit smaller, but generally speaking, the only thing you're looking at is eliminating the common element, adding more roads to get probably the same number of houses. And I think that we did a bad job conveying that, but we also didn't expect the type of opposition that we were gonna have. So this does not require a rezoning. This would not even require going to the county commissioners. This is a vested right in the development ordinance. Now, that is obviously not the preferred route we want to go, but what I can tell you is the concerns that we got from Deborah and Betty and the Filowskis, cousins of the Filowskis. The concerns that we got from them, we took very seriously, and so what we're going to do when we start out tomorrow night is see if they will let us add conditions to the rezoning, which, Deborah, when you look at your side of the property and you look at, I guess, everything that backs up to Circle A, you see where your residence is compared to where the property is. We're either going to deed that entire access over to you and just add that to your property, or we will create it in common element and provide an access easement. I'd prefer to deed it to you, but we're just gonna ask the planning board how they would prefer to do it, because I don't know how that gets into the open space requirements, but we're gonna add that as a condition. The other thing that we wanted to address is, I guess, Betty, your property is Nathan Bourne. Which one is yours out of those two?
Right across from me,
Okay.
almost diagonal.
Okay.
Bed.
Oh, that's right. So you were looking at property 445 in terms of,
Deborah don't have on my glasses.
I have several eyes too.
You mean to hold it up?
That is correct.
Okay. So what I can tell you is that I won't even make you buy it. We'll give you that property. There might be tax implications for it. Obviously, that when you give someone something, there's taxable consequences, but I can't really speak to that. Whether you buy it or it's gifted to you, there probably would be tax consequences for it. But I'm happy to add that. It doesn't really affect, when we look at the number of lots that we're looking here, it really does not affect it a whole lot. And we do want to be good neighbors, and we don't want the type of opposition that we've seen. So we're also going to add that as a condition to the site plan. I really need to get with y'all because I've spent a lot of time studying, what we can do for your property, adding a buffer, creating some sort of language that states to the effect that there can't be a trail back there. All we can really do is enhance a buffer. I'm happy to let you hunt and fish it while they're working through the rest of the project. If we're going to start right here, and I can't add that as a condition, but I'm happy to let you use this as long as you don't fall and break your leg and sue me.
Oh.
We'll figure that
I
out.
would be hunting for my own property.
Got to.
Bullets go a long ways.
Hunt developers. So I'm happy to add some language here regarding a buffer, or, no trail access. I don't know the exact language, but we're more than willing to do that. We'll do everything we can, short of putting up a sound barrier. But all that being said, we wanted to take the concern seriously. We would like your support. We don't anticipate having it, but it would go a long way if you would be willing to support the plan, because the alternative is not having a subdivision. The alternative is having probably the same number of lots, just a way uglier subdivision. So I'm open and happy to look at any other alternatives. I don't remember your name.
This is my wife, Robin.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm Buddy.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
Scott's friend.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But I'm happy to look at any other modifications that y'all want to talk about. But we do want to be a good neighbor. We're not money hungry. We do feel like this is the best product. And when we feel like when we read through the ordinance that they want green space, that they want environmentally protected subdivisions, that they want less maintenance costs as it relates to utility lines, this plan and this plan, this one is more expensive from a maintenance standpoint, just by more sewer lines, more sewer taps. So we feel like at the end of the day, we would have the support, and we feel very confident about getting it through with or without a certain level of support. But we want to be good neighbors, and I want to do a lot in this community. So that is how, I'd like to start the discussion. Totally open to hearing what you guys have to say. But just know, whether you do or do not support us, we're still going to follow through on our end of that and meet those conditions. And I'm happy to talk to you about that more in detail. And it will be in public record. So, this isn't, a bait and switch. But beyond that, just let us know kind of what questions and concerns that you guys have.
Now, what you're saying is this is the one that you want to do.
That's
not
correct.
this one.
Yeah,
The plan
yeah.
proposed.
How many lots are in this one?
I didn't even spend the time sketching it out. If you look at, I'm going to assume this is 17,000 feet of road. That's probably going to be 21,000. And if you divide that by probably 50, 21,000 divided by 50, if you assume 90 foot single loaded or double loaded. What's that?
I can't read it.
Yeah, it's really not much difference.
You're looking at 430, my calculation, you're looking at 439 lots.
Yeah, so and this one shows 445. But, if you look at this plan, for instance, you're probably not changing the density at all right here. All you're doing is, you're just mass grading and probably losing all this green space. These lots probably get a little bit wider and a little bit deeper, but then we're making further road connections, and what we lose in width right here, we'd be picking up in depth. So the economics of the deal, it makes it a little bit more expensive for us to develop, and it makes it a less desirable community. But if it's a less desirable community, then we're not as incentivized to do nicer landscaping, nicer features, nice amenities. I actually think that would be more detrimental to the community, in my opinion, but still economical enough to move forward. So,
I'm not sure all of the folks got that.
Sure.
That first meeting.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. I'm not sure they heard the fact that if you go with that, you'll drain those ponds, there'll be no green space. And I think that's important to have that green space.
I think this plan has over 70 acres of open space.
It does, and that's
It's quite a bit for 211 acres.
well, that's 40% more than what we're required to have.
Yeah, like the MXR, we have more than double. Yeah, we have more than double than what is required for the MXR. So I think this would only require about 30 some acres, and we have about 74.
I think that's a good point to bring up
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow, and to maybe re-explain this. I think some of the people were scared off by that zoning, mixed-use residential, and the meaning, the definition of that,
Mm-hmm.
and that probably needs to be re-emphasized
Now,
that this is the proposed plan, not a retail store.
Sure.
and that being said, just By the way, my name's Scott Hurdle. This is my office. We own basically the tree line that kind of wraps around here. So we're in a subdivision that are, what are these houses running? Ballpark, 275 to 500 over on the estate side. So that being said, this is actually commercial. This is a commercial building. That's commercial space out front. For lack of better words, I could put a strip joint right in the middle of that 5 acres that I own out front, and nobody could do a thing about it.
Except your wife.
Yep.
Except my wife.
You're really upset.
The reason I bought it, and I think you know this story, the reason I bought it was because there was actually a tire company, not a tire installation company, but a tire scrap. They take old tires, they chew them up and make it into mulch, and they recycle tires. They actually were trying to buy that land, and they were going to put that, and I didn't want them right in front of me, so that's why I bought the property. That being said, when this was zoned commercial, and I went and put that 9,000 square foot building down there, what we did was we had a meeting with the subdivision. We actually brought everybody up that wanted to talk to us, and we literally did what Buddy's doing now. How can we make this better for you? And their biggest concern was I was going to build a big old ugly barn or building down there, commercial building, which I had every right to do, but we didn't. We made it a barn look. We also sunk it down 20 feet in the ground, so when you pull in the main entrance to drive to your $350 to $450 or $500,000 house, you weren't looking at a big commercial building over there. So we made a conscious effort with this community to make sure that we fit into the community, and that's exactly what Buddy's doing. Buddy and I work together on other projects, and every project, that's the basis of, that's the goal, being a good neighbor. We have the right to pretty much do what we want because of how this is zoned. But I wouldn't do that because this is my community. I live here. I live right around the corner from you. Allison knows where I live. I mean, I live in Wright Farm. I live on Old Dock Court. So that's my community as well. And my boys were born and raised right here. Went to North Davidson schools. So, and I am moving out of the community, that actual Wright Farm, and I've been trying to do that for a couple of years now. She and I have talked about it, but I'm only moving right up the road. And so I'm not leaving the community. I'm staying right here because, this is where I want to be. So as far as his intentions, I can tell you we've sat down and had many conversations about this, but about multiple projects. And his intentions are very good. And I think that goes a long way because at the end of the day, we wouldn't be having this discussion with a lot of contractors that they just come in and do that right there on the other side and you deal with it. I deal with that a lot of times in Charlotte. I do a lot of work in Charlotte. And that's what happens. They come in, they mass grade, they get every single stitch, every corner lot, every lot they can build, and they don't care if there's a $500,000 house next door or a trailer next door. They don't even ask. They come in, they don't even try to make it pretty. They just come in and mass grade. So at least we're able to have the conversation of green space, ponds, walking trails, and at least he's being objective to what your concerns are. So that's our support.
Well, and I think that, and Scott did it right on the front end. I think the mistake that I made is, I've been doing this a while, but I really didn't expect opposition just because it was residential farmland, and I should have thought through it more. So I apologize, but I think a big mistake is that we did not have this meeting to begin with.
Yeah.
This is something that I could have done a much better job of being proactive about, but it probably would have cleared up a lot of the confusion that was out there. So I sincerely apologize on that front, but I at least did want you to know that we are hearing your concerns and we want to take them, seriously. And I feel bad for the people that maybe didn't come out that now want, certain things tweaked because we can't, give away land or provide buffers for everyone. But for the people that came up and spoke to us in a respectful manner, then, we're happy to be good neighbors. But the other thing too is, I polled what is a permitted use or special use or by development standards, what can currently be approved on RA3. And I know that it is not entirely likely, but besides this single family subdivision, townhomes and twin homes can currently be approved on that site. Storage for low-end explosives, not really sure what that means. Animal grooming, animal husbandry, I don't have any idea what that means. Oh, that's farm. Okay, I thought it might have been something worse. An airport, driving range, over 10,000 square feet of retail for agriculture sales. All those are already currently approved in the RA3 zoning and would not require a meeting with the county commissioners, and our vested rights, meaning even if there are objective concerns, it doesn't matter. That's like saying, you don't have the right to live in your house. So, all that being said, we're all ears here, but we would like your support and understand if we don't have it, but we're fully intent on adding those to the conditions, and we'll make that public tomorrow. So,
Will you have a berm going on any of the property adjoining us, like myself and possibly in front
yeah,
of?
so landscaping and buffering is a really large part of all the communities we do, especially ones this size, and I'd be happy to show you some pictures of things that we've done in other neighborhoods. The specifics of what types of trees or how many trees, I'm happy to discuss with you, but we will have something to that effect. And typically what we end up doing towards the front of the neighborhood is we end up making it, several $100,000 of landscaping and buffering around the frontage. And then on the sides, what we typically do is we'll plant some nice trees, and then we'll also require the home builder to plant some, a certain tree planting rate as well to create more of a buffer there. So,
And I guess my concern, Mr. Lyons, is the depth of my property, and with the townhomes backing up, of course, we have the dirt road, and thank you for that consideration. But I have a lot of woods, and I feel like that might be tempting to homeowners with children to just come right across that road and onto my property and in the woods, and
sure.
so I do have some concerns. Will there be like a fence, any kind of fencing?
I'd be happy to look at it. What I guess part of what,
something nice looking.
yeah, not chain link.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like a farm fence posting.
what what we can do, aside from adding that condition to the site plan, is just sit down and look at different pictures, of things. Yeah, I mean, it very well might be that entire row, if it's active adult, was already gonna have a certain type of fencing attached to it, or a certain type of landscape tree planting rate attached to it. So the specifics, I don't know, but we have plenty to work with there that I'd be happy to find something that you would find aesthetically pleasing. I mean, is it gonna be a 6 foot high, $40 per foot aluminum fence? Probably not, but could it be, we keep a certain tree buffer there and then do some sort of nice barn style? I think there's a number of things we could do to, and I'd be happy to do that. And potentially even, depending on if you did or did not want something somewhere, we can even look at putting Duke Energy lights, whether you did or did not want them at certain places near your property. That's not, that's, something we'd be happy to do. Yeah,
That sounds good.
sure.
Do you have examples of what you're planning on building with
Yeah.
either plan?
No, because I don't have the builder finalized. I mean, I think that everyone knows that there's a good chance that it would be D.R. Horton. I've discussed that with a lot of people, but I've also had offers from Keystone, Windsor, Greg Garrett, and I sat down with Bruce Hubbard about doing a custom builder team. And Sagamore's building a product right down the street as well that I'm very much a fan of. One of their builders, his son works for us, but I can provide some examples of those price points from other builders, and I can bring that to the planning board. But in terms of the specifics, even if I had a builder selected, I wouldn't know the specifics of the aesthetics probably till early on. And a lot of times what you find, and you probably know this better than I do, is that certain builders or certain buyers would rather spend money in their kitchen or their main level or their master bathroom than they would on, say, a back patio or a certain type of siding. And so typically we allow a certain amount of flexibility with our builders so they can figure out where those dollars are best spent. So what I'll do is I'll bring samples of different types of products through some of the builders that I've mentioned. But I think what you're gonna end up seeing is you're gonna see probably a certain amount of homes that are value homes out there. that probably are not gonna be what you would envision in a custom neighborhood. Then you're gonna see a pocket of high-end custom homes that would be like, you know, some of the higher end neighborhoods in Davidson County. And then that third product, that active adult buyer, it really is kind of market specific. In Oak Ridge, they might require 4 sides brick or want 4 sides brick in lieu of a smaller floor plan. In this market, they might prefer hardy board and a bigger floor plan. So a lot of it is dictating what the market, you know, will take out there. I'll say this too, when you put a lot of those restrictions on the front end, and it's happened to a lot of developers, is you can really get stuck if the market changes. And then that's the worst thing that happens is you made it really nice on the front end, but now you can't sell it and there's no prospect of selling it because the restrictions are too expensive for builders to go in, and you've handed over control to a homeowners association and you can't revise them. So I'll be happy to bring 5, 6, 7 examples of different products, but beyond that I probably can't provide much.
Talk about your plan for a downturn, because we know that it's a possibility that a recession will happen at any moment. And when was the last low market? 2008, we're now 10 years past that, so we're past due.
Yeah, I mean.
So we're talking about a large piece of land with a big fat question mark on it.
Yeah, with interest rates going up.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, in terms of the downturn, you know, I'm looking at this and I'd probably be talking to the board and commissioners in terms of policy statements that they can use to enforce their land use plan, which downturn economics of, you know, the market 3 or 4 years from now speculating on, they probably wouldn't comment on. And honestly, that's probably not something that could be read into the record. But because you asked the question, I wouldn't make this type of investment if I didn't feel good about the market. I think that as a whole, interest rates are rising. I think there's going to be a substantial pullback in the custom market. I think that there's no inventory in the sub 350, sub 250 market, and that we have a 4 to 5 year runway. And I think that we'll sell between 80 and 100 lots a year in that subdivision at that price point, which is probably somewhere between 250 and 400 on average.
Do you have the numbers that show how that's going to be backed up?
No, because I don't have the, what are you talking about?
Like, how do you substantiate that you're going to sell 80 to 100 homes a year?
Oh yeah, we have market data.
Yeah,
We got Metro Study,
Well-
market graphics. So,
But won't you be building this in phases anyway?
yeah. Well, yeah, probably we would bring on one single family phase at first and then a second single family phase combined with the active adult phase. Yeah.
So if things slow down some, it'll just, the land will be vacant.
Yeah, and well, traditionally I set up, I try not to get a whole lot of acquisition and development financing on this one. I don't anticipate getting a bank involved. But if we did, I try to pay off the land basis early on in the process so that there's not a risk of having a note default in phase 2 or phase 3.
And that's
So,
typically done in the first year, year and a half, which you know they'll sell into year and a half the first year.
Yeah.
So.
At the first meeting, I think I recalled that someone said the homes were gonna be in the upper 200s, is that correct?
yeah, I think that the range of price points in that subdivision would be from 250 to the low 400s.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, how much of this do you expect to be the active adults and your townhomes?
So in terms of townhomes, like attached townhomes, I envision a scenario where there might not be any at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
the phrase detached is what was being used. So
Okay, so
you're-
here's the, and I'm glad you brought that up because there's clarification that when you look at a subdivision, that typically a townhome style development has one section of common element and then everything else is hood. All of this is common element and all of this is essentially one unit. They're not gonna have 450 individual lots. Now they will own what is underneath their house and they might own a portion of their yard, but when you have a fee simple style subdivision, what it allows you to do is to put controls on it from an architectural standpoint, from having a homeowners association potentially be responsible for exterior maintenance of the houses. If you have an active adult section, then you have the ability to push the maintenance of the yard off onto the homeowner association itself. So how it's going to function, probably part of it is a single family neighborhood. The part that would be townhomes really is a clarification issue that all it means is it would be fee simple. People don't own individual lots. They own probably what is underneath your unit and some sort of yard, but it allows us for flexibility. So probably it's going to look very similar to a single family neighborhood, and I don't anticipate, we currently don't have it spec'd out for any 3 or 4 unit type buildings like a Friedberg Village or anything like that. And that's probably a long-winded answer, but it's probably the best I can do.
Is there a product nearby that you can compare it to locally?
I mean, I'm doing 2 active adult neighborhoods in Oak Ridge that we're about to go vertical on. I mean, y'all been Weldon Village in Kernersville?
Highway 66.
A mix of products out there, Weldon Village, very cottagey feeling, kind of cute feeling. Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar concept. You know, I don't think this is gonna be as nice as Brookberry Farms. Brookberry Farms in Louisville is also a mixed use that has a lot of the fee simple components that we're talking about.
When you do single family homes versus the detached homes, strictly HOA governed, what do the numbers look like as far as
What do
sales
you
data?
mean?
How quickly do you think you would sell the single family homes versus a townhome?
I mean, I don't, you know, really have an answer to that. I think that I probably wouldn't do a neighborhood if I didn't think we were going to get somewhere between 4 and 6 sales a month, you know, based off market data that we're looking at. But in terms of hard data, I mean, I don't really have anything other than my opinion of why it would work. And yeah.
To answer your question about active adult, I had this written down because either you asked me or Michelle. I think Michelle asked when I talked.
How do you
about
qualify?
it. Yeah, and you guys probably talked about it, but it's 30 to 40% of the community.
I would say that's probably the case.
So how do you plan to market that? Because it's really hard to legally say this is for 55 and up.
Well, I probably would have talked to you about that a month
Yeah,
ago,
you're the real
but, I mean,
fan.
dang, I don't know
I-
about now. You probably hate your product, so yeah, but
Well,
yeah.
I can touch base on that. I mean, like we talked about over the phone, there's a number of good communities in the triad that are active adult 55 and up. One is, and a builder out there named Andy Dreyfus has a Epcon. He's got the license for Epcon, correct?
Clemens, I saw that land
Okay.
on Middlebrook.
The Epcon Communities is it's I guess he's got a franchise they're out of Ohio, correct? Maybe.
Ed and Phil's condos, Epcon, and they
Ed and
turned it
Phil's
into.
So you're saying it would be exclusively 55 and up because
No, I typically, I
Okay.
think it would target
Yeah.
that market,
I don't
and it
think
would,
it would be
it would probably be
exclusive.
marketed as that, but I don't think it would necessarily be age restricted. Cause sometimes you have young professionals, doctors that don't like maintenance on the yard, but, I don't envision us disallowing a certain demographic, but it would work out that probably 85, at least from, you know, what we've seen, probably 80 to 85 of the people that move into those type of units would be
Right,
active
adults.
adults, yeah, which is really, I mean, I don't think 55 is old by any means, so I'm surprised that is the 55 and up being active adults, but, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying.
I mean, I was like, when I heard the term, I was like, there's gotta be some better way to phrase it, and I was talking to actually a guy at Epcon, he was like, no, we ran market studies, and they said that is the most politically correct way to say it, and I was like, it still sounds offensive.
So just to kind of quantify what we're doing here, so there's 2 neighborhoods which are close by, the Glen Haven and Friedberg Village, which are both townhome. They are attached, but as the time has gone on throughout the recession, the product has changed somewhat. What you are proposing is more than what those 2 communities together have offered, and they have to date in the last 10 years sold only half.
Yeah.
So what is the plan for if this does not sell 4 to 6 a month? How are you going to sustain the neighborhood and not say, I got to get out of this, I got to sell it to somebody else, and make it be somebody else's vision?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that from a rezoning and
You've got
commission-
numbers that prove
Yeah,
this.
from
so.
a rezoning and commissioner standpoint, I don't think that is a question that they would entertain based off it not being a policy statement for the ordinance. But because we're all here in a room, I would not purchase this or have 5, 6, 7 contingency, or would not purchase this without 5, 6, 7 contingency plans lined up, and none of those include fire selling it to a Wade Journey type product. I mean, be transparent with you. I think that once we get through about 50 to 60 to 70 lots, my risk is completely mitigated. I plan on developing a lot of it out of cash We're not planning on getting a bank involved. I think the worst thing that happens is someone is farming good 75% of it if there's a pullback in the recession. I can't say that that's true for some of the other subdivisions I'm doing where I have to take out massive loans. But in this one, you know, I feel like it's purchased right with good terms and I feel very comfortable. And
So is this your first development?
that's funny.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we currently have about 25 developments going. We have about 1,500 to 2,000 lots in the catalog, so
So what do your numbers look like?
strong.
No, I mean, for this, so like,
One.
run through the numbers for us. So what if you're, I mean, hopefully we don't get caught up in a recession again, but
Yeah.
say that we do, and in 10 years you have sold not yet half of them.
Mhm.
So you're going to change that product and evolve with time. So you've got a forecast, I know you do. So kind of share with us the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think that question would apply any differently to this project than any other development and any other municipalities that go in for rezoning. So, I mean, other than telling you that, you know, I feel like homes in the $250,000 to $400,000 price point that cater to a large variety of a large variety of consumers in a good school district, you know, is a strong play. And I think you combine that with certain builders that are professionals at hitting that. You know, I feel very good about it. I think that if this was, you know, being purchased at $100,000 an acre, you know, I wouldn't feel very good about it. But I
You
mean,
could also look at it
Yeah.
at 4 homes being sold a month, so a quarter, that's 12 homes a month. But if there was a pullback for 6 months or a year or 2 years, and you went from 12 homes a quarter to 6 homes a quarter, from a real estate broker standpoint, it's 6 homes a quarter in a subdivision with homes in $250,000 to $400,000 range. Does that make sense to you?
It's going to be it's going to be hard to keep someone that's on site to really pull with any kind of talent. So
Yeah.
how are you going to be able to keep someone to sell that product?
yeah, I mean, I think, and personally, being in the industry, I mean, I know I'm not that old, but being in the industry, like, you know, close to 10 years, I think there's a lot more risk when you sell a pre-sale to a custom builder that's probably got, you know, a few $1,000s in his checking account that he doesn't manage his draws correctly and can't come to fruition when that guy takes on that contract. So, I mean, there's risk involved in every business venture, but
So, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We have a disclosure form that says, "Are you aware of any field areas on the property that are including but not limited to the ponds, lakes, or gullies?" So, you know, from a real estate perspective, if I'm aware of these,
yeah.
you can't develop this. But you're saying that you have ways to make that foundation stable.
Yeah, those aren't permanent features. You could put a compacted filter, or I could, but Scott could do it.
But how does this put us in a real estate disclosure position?
I mean, I think that there's less liability in that than the fact that there are sometimes potentially steering violations when people get caught up in certain price points that they want to stay away from, in certain violations in terms of real estate commission. So I don't know how to answer that question. I think that you as a real estate broker being concerned with the price point here is much more of a steering issue that is far greater of a liability than if, yeah.
No, it's actually, you know, you're saying the community involvement.
Were you talking about fill, you're talking about on the individual lots, or what?
I'm sorry?
You said the fill, and what were you saying is, disclosure issue?
We have the disclosure form, the filling, if the areas are filled in on the property that are ponds, then, you know, how do you sell your neighbor a house that was once upon a time a pond? I mean, to me, and I'm not a builder,
It's-
you're
it's
better.
on structural fill. Once you
All
put
the
in
more
structural
reason
fill,
to
it's
do
taken care
this.
of.
All right, so
An example would be.
Well, that's a good point. We won't have to worry about it.
If we do this,
Nifon's project down here, he's got one property that's actually right next to where he's gonna build his home. It's a pond, it's a detention pond, it's a temporary pond. That will be put back in with construction fill and there'll be a house built on it. You know, that happens every day.
that's a standard.
I mean,
procedure.
To fill in ponds that have been there for
Absolutely.
years and
Yeah.
years.
As long as you get the proper engineering test of the compacted soil that the house goes on.
Geosoil science, it does all that stuff. So, you know, for these tennis courts right here, you know, for full disclosure, we're probably gonna clear that off
Yeah.
and sell that lot right there because that was filled. I had a 10-year waiting period basically when I bought this to find out well, that's been over 10 years, not since I've owned this, but that's been there for 10 years. It's only moved so much. So now because that's structural fill and I have everything in paper and writing, structural fill, I can build on that quote unquote landfill right there. And it is a landfill. That's what it is. It's all pipe and brick and everything else. But because it has structural integrity, and then I can build on it. The same with the pond. Once structural fill is structural fill. It's accepted throughout the state. We can build on any of those ponds. You can tell them it was a pond, but it's still structural fill. And it's the liability of the builder. Basically, me being a builder, it's the liability of me. You know me. You know what I build. You know what I would do. So, I mean, if it comes to the point of having to put those, put houses on the ponds, they would be right before a house would ever go up. And any builder would never just I won't say any builder, but the builders that he's entertaining won't put something up in the middle of a pond. If you go down Everett right now, there's 2 houses sitting on a pond down their bottom, and across the street's the old landfill, and it's full of houses. I mean, that's the
Which brings me to another point, and I've got lots of questions. I'm appreciative of your time here. Anytime you put high density homes in a neighborhood, this product, and even this one, your issues tend to rise. I mean, your high density is 10 times the average density of Davidson County. Is what you're proposing.
The state and development ordinance, anything under 2 units an acre is low density. So this is technically a low density neighborhood.
We're comparing it to Davidson County, though. I mean, you're bringing a brand new product to Davidson County. 302 people per acre, and we're saying roughly 1,200 people per acre with this.
It's
third mile.
It's a little bit of a different product, but it's the same concept, the same zoning as Freeburg Village and the Meadowlands,
Okay.
which are both MXRs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in zoning terms and planning, so if you went to Davidson County, looked at their ordinances for zoning and planning, low density is really under 5 units an acre. When you get to moderate density, you're at about a 4 or 5 unit cap and up to about 8. And that's for single family, and then it goes into multifamily, which is moderate density multifamily, which is an average of 6 to 8 units per acre. Then you go into higher density multifamily, which is 8 units to 12 to 18 to 26, depending on where you're at. So 2.1 units per acre is really low density. I mean, you live on an acre of land, correct? That's one home. It's RS40 probably in the county.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a well and septic tank, so you have one home per
No,
acre.
public water.
Public water and then a septic tank. So you have 1 unit per acre. So this is just 2.12. I consider 2 units an acre.
But the roads that are already there, right, they are to service the homes that are existing currently with this density that's already here, the 302 people per mile, excuse me.
Mhm.
So your traffic study, Davenport, what is the findings from that?
Yeah, we'll submit it tomorrow,
Yeah.
but it basically had the current counts, current road traffic counts, what upon complete build out the counts would be, and what the capacity is for that Heggie Road at complete build out, and it doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of what DOT feels comfortable with their infrastructure. So what we're adding to that, although it seems like a lot from a DOT standpoint, is pretty insignificant.
So the sharp turns that are there, explain to us from a layman's standpoint.
I mean, so that part of it is really not up to us. When we submit a plan, we submit it to DOT, and they tell us how they want us to change, if anything, sightline easements, curvature of the road. So if anything, if there is something wrong with the layout of the road now, there would be an opportunity to fix it.
And how would you do that?
They would require us to put it into their standards
Mhm.
versus leaving it the way it is.
And ultimately, how it is right now is it's actually
Yeah.
with your line of sight, it's already been accepted. As far as line of sight and that curve right there, none of these homes will be entering onto Heggie Road. They'll be coming out of entrance ways. So the line of sight and the traffic speed would all be determined by them, and it already has been. It's just not an issue. I mean, it is a sharp curve. I live there, but
How do you say turning out onto Union Grove is not an issue with the blind spot?
turning out onto Union
Oh,
Grove.
she's talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about right here on Hague, well, right now, we're talking about the curb at Hagee Road.
Yeah, they were talking about, they thought you were talking about
Right.
that. I know what you're talking about. We just came out onto Union Grove and the trees.
But
that
Union Grove
fella's
is a
yard
mile and a
is-
half up the road. And you're basing the determination that everybody's gonna go out onto Union
Well,
Grove.
they said 80% is gonna go north,
I thought
right?
It was, no,
No, it's
they
eighty
said to
percent.
my house.
Current.
That's
They're
correct.
going to the right.
Yeah, 80%'s coming by your
Down.
house. 80%'s coming by you.
Good.
Yeah, it's not going the other way.
So, but that being said, we have an incredibly, I would say 3 houses up, you can't see people come over the curve. So it affects us as far as safety. I mean, I've got 2 girls that are going to be driving cars. You've got daughters.
Oh, yeah.
So when you've got little girls driving,
Fun, right?
backing out in front of 1,200 cars,
Yeah, but I mean, I understand that and I sympathize with it because I'm terrified of the day my girls drive. But the difference in these 2 plans is not going to affect the traffic count. So other than just asking us not to develop it for residential altogether, I don't see what this plan would
well,
deter.
can you run the numbers for this one?
Same number of units.
Yeah, it's the same number of
15,
units.
16 unit difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
just
about
exactly
16
that.
units less.
I thought
here.
this was going to be 300.
No.
That's what was mentioned at the meeting, was that this was only
Yep.
gonna be 300 and something.
Yeah, that was probably before we had designed it and actually looked at it. We didn't think it as a realistic, that the county would prefer this over that.
That was just put together since the meeting.
Yeah, to actually see where we would land.
What do the numbers look like for demand in the county, townhomes versus single family?
I mean, I'd be happy to have speculative conversations with you and your husband, one-on-one over Starbucks, but it's not really a land use issue. I mean, I feel like the demand is good, and if it wasn't, I don't see how that affects the zoning.
16 houses is not gonna make or break what happens in the subdivision, other
Yeah.
than we give up all the green space and all the ponds.
So as a
It's gonna
realtor,
happen.
even if I didn't live here, I constantly, what are you wanting to go buy? Some land.
Yeah, I already have, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody wants land.
Mhm.
So when you take that opportunity for, you could say, hey, we're going to build houses on half-acre lots. Great, excellent, good. We've got we're going to pull in some great neighbors, or townhomes.
So I personally would rather have a house that backs up to 20 or 30 acres of open field in lieu of a little bit bigger lot. I don't know if that is your preference or your buyer's preference.
I have the numbers to show it's overwhelmingly this area's preference. And so I'm trying to say, Scott has a fantastic opportunity down in his neighborhood. He has
Yeah.
decent sized lots, and they have sold as fast as you can build.
I can't build them fast enough, correct?
Okay. So as a local, hyper-local person, we're saying, please give these people land. They want an opportunity to spread out.
So
Well, my subdivision, I'm sorry,
No,
my
go ahead.
my subdivision, the lots are, the largest lot's an acre and a half, smallest lot's 0.15 acres. I mean, it's literally just under the 20,000 square foot. We're on sewer. And those I've sold every one, and I'm getting ready to start Tuscan West, which is another 22 or 24 homes right there. We're getting ready to break ground there. Every one of those houses are less than 20,000 square feet. So, and I've got 4 pre-sold on that one from just people that know the neighborhood, that want to move in that area. So that being said, what everybody wants, I'm kind of getting to we're kind of getting to a retirement stage. Our boys are we're empty nesters. We're trying to find new things to do and things, so that everybody doesn't want land. Everybody wants what they want.
Let me just, with that being said, I know you're talking about the active adult. 2 different perspectives here. He would love to have 15 acres, the house and all this when we retire. That's what he wants. Lord forbid when he passes, I would sell that and I would be moving into an active living community
Sure.
Be moving here.
because
Sure.
I want a place for my dogs, which have the tennis court right now. I want to have that. I don't want to keep up yard. I don't want to touch it. I don't do yard work, never will.
And I know you and I have spoke about this. You know what I'm building up front, right? I mean, you're probably going to be involved in it. The multifamily, because they're flying off the shelf. I mean, I can't. and I'm not saying, I mean, these over here, you've sold
Can't
2 of
keep-
them.
Can't
Right.
keep people, they
The
put
ones
them
I just
up and
did for
they
you?
sell the next week.
I have no idea. Yeah.
The ones right here, they go
They're
on the market, they
right
sell the
next-
next day.
my
I mean,
parents
one of them was on the market one day.
Right.
Didn't you sell that one?
Homes.
Yeah.
It took me 4 months to sell.
That one that I was in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the one.
Well, the
right on
last 3 have sold just back to back.
They're
quickly.
right next to her parents. I mean, they literally sold, I mean, the sign went in the yard, it was sold the next day. I mean, they're selling. It's just,
I-
everybody has a different opinion. You wanted 6 acres so you could hunt on, you know? And I don't know where you came from.
We left downtown Winston. We looked
Yeah.
for years
0.17
to find
Yeah.
a place.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been looking for years too, and she's helped me. I mean, just for transparency, I love her to death. She's probably one of the best realtors I've ever met. You know that's true, but at the end of the day, you know, the difference between this and that, it would be a travesty to ask somebody to do that versus this. It really would be. It's gonna happen. I mean, just to be real transparent, it's gonna happen. So do you want 16 less houses? Is that really gonna make it? Or do you want the green space?
Or
You
you
know,
wanna cut your nose off to spite yourself.
which is
I'm
what
sorry.
we're doing.
Which
is
is
what we're
what I
doing.
feel like this
So-
would be
I do
doing.
have a concern about the sewer.
Yep.
I know you don't have a plan, cause it's not your thing anyway, you're just gonna go to the utility and they're gonna put in what you need.
Well, I mean,
But I would like your word that, in some of the developments in the area, I've heard that they've had issues with smell.
Okay.
Any development going in, they put in weigh stations, pumping stations, and the people that are already there now get to smell sewer.
So whereabouts have you, and just so I can
just
ask,
heard people
okay.
mention things.
So this one would all be gravity fed.
Yeah, direct feed.
So the low point's right here, so all the gravity sewer feeds down in here. I can say in my personal experience, I started out as a county developer, doing a lot of county, ribbon pavement, well and septic, and I've had far more issues with smell and potential contamination, on the septic side of things than I have on municipal sewer, mainly because you have a company responsible for maintaining it, and the landowner can't take a bobcat in their backyard and screw up their drain field, which we're currently dealing with in our neighborhood. But, yeah, I'd be happy to.
I live in a house like this, it'd be like right here, backed up to Big Creek, and the sewer outfall runs in my backyard. They got an easement,
You're not gonna have an issue with that.
right,
There's no guarantees in life in anything, so he can't put in writing, "You'll never smell sewer." You're also up on the other end, but that wouldn't be an issue. It's not like driving down here Griffin.
We're not on the other
Yeah.
end.
But
Sewer's right
still,
here.
yeah, but you're still not on Griffith Road with a sewer treatment plant. I mean, this is all contained underground, and it's gonna be maintained by Forsyth County, Davidson County and Forsyth County. So it's on a pump station that is not anywhere close, so it won't utilize a pump station at all. And there is a subdivision right up the road here that has their own, septic pump station, and, you hear it run. I don't smell anything, but you hear it run. You'll hear it kick on at night and pump, if you live next door, but that's really it. So I don't think it's an issue here, and especially on this, cause this sewer's not that old. That sewer right here is actually right here. That sewer runs this subdivision as well. And it runs literally right underneath this parking lot, runs right on out to, you know, here and on through into Clemens. And so that won't be an issue, in my opinion. I mean, I may be speaking out of turn, I apologize, but I don't think that'll be an issue at all.
I don't, we'd have to get a contractor and come fix it if it was, you know, but, I think
Yeah, I
that
would
would be
imagine
fine.
the people who just buy houses from you would be kinda irritated too.
They would be, Bill would probably be pretty irked too.
I thought you were up here. I thought you didn't buy Lee's property?
No, we're in the
Okay.
valley.
Okay.
It was the original Hagee farm.
I got you.
Yeah, it's 33 acres
Yeah.
back there that I dreamed about buying.
Yeah.
No such luck.
So where do we stand from here? Does anybody have any different feelings as far as after this evening, or is everybody still on the same page as they were? Did this do any good to talk about it and at least vent? You seem like you feel better.
I think it did, I think.
I guess you would wanna know who here would support.
You know, I think it would go, a long way, even if you didn't wanna speak, to shoot an email or a letter and some sort of support. That's not gonna affect how we present our conditions. But, you know, it's our intent to be a good neighbor. I know it's not ideal. It's probably most unfortunate for y'all than anyone else at this table by far. But I'll do anything I can to, you know, obviously I'd like to get with you individually and we can talk about some logistics and you as well. And I'm happy to look at.
You know, I know in some of the subdivisions I've been in, I've worked in, doing some metal work in them before, they have signs posted saying that they don't allow contractors to come in and work on Sundays. Is that something you foresee?
Mhm.
As to where,
So there's
Are
probably-
you gonna be
at
building
least one
on
day a week
Sundays?
where we don't listen to air nailers going all day long?
That's probably in the development ordinance. You probably know more about that than I do.
No, there's actually not. There's nothing in Davidson County saying they can work. We could work 7 days a week if we wanted to. I don't allow my crews to work on Sunday. Saturdays are definitely a given. It takes one phone call. I know a developer right now that's dealing with, actually the chipper was running full day Sunday. It took one phone call, they shut down. They were not allowed to run. And so there's contingency there. It's gonna be more of being a good neighbor. So I would tell you that it's gonna take one phone call to the county, but I don't know a developer right now. There's not a subdivision that I've been in, whether it be D.R. Horton or any of them that are working on Sundays. I mean, do you see them working on Sundays in these
I
subdivisions?
take Sundays off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I mean-
always working. She's always working, but like,
I don't expect anyone in our camp to work on Sunday.
yeah,
and,
Wade Journey's right across from my subdivision, and they'll, if anybody's gonna work, it's gonna be on them, and they don't work on Sundays. They don't.
Mhm.
So I don't foresee that being an issue.
I do think, although that we don't have an opportunity to pick the builder, but a local team. You said that you wanted to do a lot in the community, and Lexington specifically has suffered. I mean, this is Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, but Sapona Ridge just shut down. So
Yeah.
there's currently not a draw anywhere outside of this area to go south.
But it's gonna reopen. I mean,
Well,
that conversation's gonna happen next
yeah.
week.
So
That's a good local golf course.
Yeah,
I know a builder. I do a lot of stuff with Tony Johnson. I think
Okay.
he was building
that being said, there's a lot of opportunity for community reinvestment. I'd love to know what you plan on doing to reinvest in the community
Yeah.
and the schools.
Yeah, I mean, one thing after the meeting, I went up to someone on the board and I said, hey, you know, is there any potential that the school district would be, you know, if we have the ability for, you know, 15% commercial, which we will also add a condition that says we will not have any commercial, and we're happy to do that as well. But I said, you know, with some of our excess acreage that we have that's above and beyond what we need, do you think the school district would be interested in having some of it? And they said that they called the school district earlier that day, and that they have about 50 or 60 excess acres of land, and that they own plenty of land. But I personally am working on about 3 or 4 other projects in Davidson County, some of which are neighborhoods, some of which are commercial projects that probably will be at the planning and commissioner board all within the next 3 or 4 months. I'd be happy to collaborate and sit down and see if there's a opportunity to work together. Probably would have been a lot more incentivized about 45 days ago, but
We
if
didn't
you
know
have-
about it 45 days ago.
Yeah, but in any event, whether there is a pocket of custom builders here or in my county, northwest Guilford County, in that same county, I'm selling to Hyacinth Custom Builders, Windsor, Horton, Arden Group, Blue Ridge, 5 different builders, 5 different price points, all in the same school district. And I work with marketing teams and realtors. Some of them pick people to be on site through, you know, local realtor teams, and then some people have their own on-site agents. So I plan on doing something similar out here. And other than that, you know, I can't really.
But to pick a local builder team, with Hubbard,
Mhm.
they draw from local folks. The money is poured back into the local economy instead of like D.R. Horton goes outside of the state, outside of the county, outside of the state. So, you know, there's certain builders in other counties, and it's not a local experience, but they actually, for every house, and I know that you say that there is a 55 and up supposed targeted age bracket there, but they pour money back into the schools with each home sold. You know, North Davidson, we're so geared to say North Davidson. The northern Davidson area is the better part of the county, and we really fund the rest of the county's activities. And it's unfortunate.
I mean, I agree. You can't probably say that as a real estate professional, but I don't disagree with it.
I mean, you look at the wealth, you look at the population, we're concentrated up here. So my daughter's dyslexic, so we sent her to private school. But I still have a heart for the local schools.
Mhm.
And I see how these kids don't have the money for the things that they do. But whenever you're pouring people into them, it's putting a greater stress onto the schools. So you have children, so you know, put your heart in that spot. How are you going to reinvest into the schools since you're
Yeah,
bring more people
so
into the area?
You know, I look at it a couple different ways. I certainly take into consideration the valuation out here. Obviously, you know, you've been pretty vocal about your opposition. I went on your website that 15 of your 17 listings are under the $250,000 price point in Davidson County. So I think that our average price point will be substantially greater than what, at least from what I'm gaining, would be 80 or 90% of the listings that you are working with. So I do think it'll be higher. But on the other side of the equation, I firmly believe that when you look at North Davidson, Oak Grove, Ledford, or where I'm from, Northern, Northwest, Reagan, West Forsyth, I personally believe it is a huge travesty that a working class family can't send their kids to that school district because there's no $300,000 housing. And that is a huge problem in Forsyth County. It's a huge problem in Guilford County. And I know the lady said something to the effect, but if you have a single income family, if you have, a working mom, if you just have, a working dad that is not climbing the executive ladder, all of those people are priced out of that price point to be able to send their kids to the Oak Groves and Ledfords of the world. And a lot of times, those are the communities they serve, whether they're teachers that can't afford to live in the school districts they live in. So I say all that to say, I personally feel very great about the fact that you're adding a potential end buyer that can now send their kids to a quality school district. I personally hate dealing with the $800,000, $900,000 buyers that I'm dealing in with my custom neighborhoods. I generally find them to be extremely unappreciative. But furthermore, when you back down the chain, which is the subcontractors, the laborers, the people that work underneath the people that Scott is employing, these are all people that are generating jobs. Yeah, tax dollars. Just the layout of this plan itself is going to save thousands and thousands of dollars just by decreased maintenance costs in the utilities. So it's kind of like I watched about a 3-hour video on China being currency manipulators last night because I couldn't go to bed, and it was very hard to pinpoint exactly, what facet of it fits where. But there's no doubt that this is generating revenue for Davidson County.
Well, how are you going to directly enrich the schools, though?
I don't feel like I understand that question. What do you?
I mean,
what do you-
if you're saying you want to do a lot in the community, so other than building an affordable product so people can go to the schools,
Yeah.
so the residual effect is the roads are going to be used more, the schools are going to be more packed, and
And
so
you're gonna have more revenue.
You're gonna have 400.
Yeah.
400. You're gonna have a tax base of 400 homes. The
Yeah,
money's
I mean,
there.
I do have a heart for Davidson County, but, I tithe. I feel like that's where my obligation is. And if you're asking, I don't know if you're asking for a donation for the school or something to that effect, but I feel
I
like,
just would like to see a community involvement to see the schools, to go inside the schools to see the kids, to meet the teachers.
I'm not opposed to that, but again, when we're approaching this as land use issues. And I feel like, to actually make that come to fruition, you have to have people working on the same side, which says, hey, how do we collaborate and make something nice? Because I don't disagree. What if we carve that off there and you could put a park there? We have plenty of extra acreage. What if we made this, an outdoor food market that our neighborhood can tie into and stuff like that? And I appreciate the questions and the creativity behind it, but I don't think that there's any authenticity on your end, no offense, to actually work for that stuff to come to fruition. What I'm gathering from you is that you're grabbing straws of all the reasons you don't want this to happen.
Absolutely not.
I don't know that I believe that, but you're right to your opinion. So if you want to sit down and work together, then I'd be happy to do that. I mean, I feel like what I do is try to make deals with people in a pragmatic way where people win-win. If you'd like to see a park out here, if you'd like to see some land set aside for the school district, I'm totally willing to work with you on that. But in no way in a manner that is, opposing or contentious. I mean, I think that without a doubt, if you listed 3 or 4 things that you would like to see different to the community, if you like to see 3 or 4 ways that your real estate firm could be involved, if you'd like to see 3 or 4 ways that we could modify the plan, those are all things that I'm happy to address, but we would have to be on the same team. So, I don't know any other way to
I
answer
think it's a
that.
process that we take later too. The first step is to identify what we got here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the viable questions related to the site plan and the zoning is what we should discuss now.
And local vendors, I mean, he's using local vendors as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Even, and to answer everybody's question, even if it was a builder from out of state, every subcontractor they're using is
here.
local,
Yeah.
because nobody's gonna drive from Raleigh, because Raleigh's got a lot of business. Nobody's gonna, and or Charlotte, or maybe they will commute, but they're definitely local.
Yeah,
And
Charlotte and
regional.
Raleigh are saturated. Charlotte and Raleigh are saturated because I work in both markets. As far as and finding and local vendors are here, and local vendors are already talking about the project, so there'll be local vendors involved in it. So I think the community's going to grow, and that's a plus. There's a huge tax base there. That's a plus. They're contributing to the county. And that'll also contribute to the growth of the schools, the teacher salaries, and everything else. And the roads are part of the state or county. That's not anything. Has nothing to do with the developer. Hey, that road was designed to hold X amount of folks, and if it exceeds that, it's not his responsibility to put that in. It's theirs. That's why 150 right here. Well, 150 is getting ready to get expanded 4 roads wide. Well, his liability would be small compared to what could happen. 150's, that's getting ready to be changed from 64 all the way back. Why? Because the growth in North Davidson is here. Talking to them 5 years ago, I've got county commissioners asking me to buy property up here because they're saying that's the next best thing. Is literally the next interchange up is going to explode. So that's the kind of market we're in. North Davidson is where everybody wants to be. That's just wherever, and we knew it was coming. Jeff even said the other day when we all talked, he said, well, you knew it was coming. We know it's going to
We
happen.
know, we absolutely do. And that's why we want to see options. We feel like that you put all your eggs in this basket. We as a community, look, we've got folks who are over 55. I have no idea how you are. I'm not going to assume. I'm not
Definitely
gonna
not 55.
No.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to go maybe 32. I'm going to go maybe
That's
32.
actually that's my grandpa. Yeah.
Well,
He
he's
got
a-
heart attack last week.
He's better looking than you are.
Yeah.
He's 54, man.
He's local.
There you go.
Allison, this wasn't just an overnight, let's draw something out.
I understand that,
That's
but
been revised.
But I feel like that the community, I can present you data that you're not able to present me with how the absorption rate of these
I
condos in
would.
the area. I would love to see it. I
I
asked
would
him
love,
for
but
it.
I'm not going to do it before you're trying to spearhead a charge against me. How I honestly feel about it, and this is the first thing that Scott said, obviously off the record, is she's one of the most talented brokers. Did you not say that?
Yes, that's true.
I think he said the talented, and I said, well, I'd love to have her on my team. Became very clear that wouldn't happen, but I see it, and
I said that 3 weeks ago.
you said it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We spend several $100,000 a year in research. We're all into new technologies. We have a $40,000 drone to do our survey work. I don't even know how it works. I flew it to the conference table the second day I got it. We are trying to stay on the cutting edge of the curve. I would show you after this got approved why I feel like we're going to sell 80 homes a year here, and at an average price point of $300,000. What is that? Someone do the math on that. 24 million, 2.4 million. 2.4 million? 24 million.
What are you doing?
What's 80 times 300,000?
24 minutes.
Is that a coyote?
No,
No,
that is Piper.
Okay.
telling
The
me
Lord.
it's
So
gonna be-
so 80.
I was going to get eaten up.
So that's $24 million. What's 3% of that in commission?
I'm not driven by money.
6 million.
Well, that's fine.
I'm not driven by money.
But what I think is, and you might not be, but there might be some young hungry person in your firm that can now be an on-site agent that is not only fulfilling a need in the community, but is advancing their career. That is, I feel like, how you collaborate, and then you take the excess money and do some enriching things with it. But we have data, we have networks of builders. We have all sorts of reasons we feel like this is the best product that, you know, you might disagree, but
She's fine, so.
When,
Yeah.
alright, when do you plan to break ground?
spring,
February, March.
yeah.
Well, I can say, I don't know, how long have you lived in North Davison?
My entire life.
All right, I've been here 47 years. I guess you've been here 47 years, roughly?
No, you're not
Right?
47.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I've lived here when we had to drive past Clemensville Road just to find a grocery store. I mean, just a regular grocery
I
store.
Oh,
remember.
it's changed a lot since you and I have moved in.
Yes.
You know, so it's crazy.
The whole point is, you know, this is a great place. My parents moved out here. The reason why is because it was halfway between where my dad worked and where his parents lived. So he would be still close to his parents. But it was a very hardship for my mom with 4 kids to have to drive all the way into town to buy food and the gas. The only place was Exxon. I mean, you had to get on up the road. You know, I've watched this place develop and grow, and you know, it has definitely had some positive changes to this area that brought things that as somebody who wants to live in this area, who enjoys being on the outskirts of Winston-Salem, that you're close enough if you want to go downtown and have a nice time, but you still can go back home and feel like you have that home, down home environment.
Yeah, that's why
When
everybody's
I
here.
looked at the plans that they had on the table, and I just saw it tonight, I think it's a great idea. I look at a couple things. I know that some of the opposition was saying, yeah, but you're gonna bring in lower class, you might bring in, you know, problems with break-ins and stuff. You have that anyway. You know, the problem is you have people breaking in the cars and stuff. It comes to a community, you know, awareness. That's where you put your cameras up. You know your neighborhood. We know our neighbors. We know who comes down around our area. It would be the same there. It's a community. And when I grew up down the road, down off of Hope Drive, my kids, we moved back there when my kids were just toddlers. And it was the same thing. My boys would play outside, but my neighbors watched my kids. And I think that's one thing I do like about it, is that it's not so scattered out. There are people who want to live on 5 to 10 acres privately, and they have their reasons for it, whether it's enjoying hunting or just wanting to get away from everybody or running their dogs. It depends on what they want. But the way I see it is, the plan he has there opens up a lot for the community itself. I personally, I'm going to throw this out there because
Let me hear it.
and Scott knows probably where I'm going. But a little park, this area needs a park so much, you know.
If you don't build it, I'm gonna have to. That's
Yeah.
the truth.
That's been on my plate for a while.
Yeah.
But
the
if it's
reason
an
why
HOA, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if it's an HOA, only those folks can.
No,
No,
no.
no, that's
No,
not true.
uh-uh.
I can park and walk down there. We don't have anything. I can walk all over the commons area here.
Yeah, it's public.
Yeah, it's
It's
public.
public. HOA.
So the
can't do
HOA would be the park would be
You
public.
can do anything you want with HOA, but before you even said that, I was literally just thinking, like, I wonder if you could put a park around the pond and do something to that effect.
I mean, it's just a thought
Yeah.
process. I have looked at several things. I've spoke to Scott and stuff, and I'm not saying it's going to happen for the whole area. I'm just saying
No,
it would be a very nice added thing to have for this area.
It's a beautiful neighborhood. I mean, it
Yeah.
is. I mean, and I live here.
And I
I'm
know
not
about
leaving
what
it.
you were
Yeah.
saying, wanting to buy that land right there. It's gorgeous, gorgeous land. You know.
I don't wanna park. It brings in strangers.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
sorry.
true.
That's good. That's good.
But I mean, there's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
always
But I do
check
like the
and balance.
walkways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the trails.
It's funny because
and-
in the development ordinance, one of the reasons they like this is because they generally say it's safer because you have more open space. When you have recreational area, you have a bunch of homes overlooking it, but then you have a centralized place for school pickups as opposed to, you know, this is a designated school pickup that's around maybe an amenity center, things like that. So safety is one of the concerns with it. But
And that would also give them that natural area, the people who buy in their
Mhm.
place, I mean, they'll feel like their own little community.
That's what it is.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is.
It's,
Like
it's
Arcadia
actually
is
gonna be
its own-
separate
Yeah.
from
That's definitely
the
the goal.
rest of us. We'll-
Right.
we'll
What is your
never
built
be
upon
two
area?
neighbors. I don't know, 'cause they'll have their
Gosh, let me
neighbors.
figure this
Right,
out.
but like I
So,
said, they're little hubs.
I think they do it, they just do it on a maximum,
I'm gonna
They
have to
take-
go get my dogs and feed them.
they take the total acreage and divide it by 20,000, and you can exceed that
Yeah, they're hungry, I just gotta want.
in terms of
round them
density.
up.
No, I'm talking about your built upon area for water quality.
Yeah, so Davidson County,
It's 24%.
right,
That's
so,
state.
yeah, so they don't, it's designed so that I think they figure 3,000 square feet per single family unit, and when they back into that calculation, which is they take the total acreage divided by 20,000 and figure in the average road network, it wouldn't be over 24%. If it was over 24%, we'd be required to do curb and gutter and a BMP. And I don't even think that would be allowed in this zoning, but that'll get picked up in their stormwater review. So,
Why aren't you doing curb and gutter?
because we don't have any BMPs, there's really, you're adding an extra layer of asphalt, curb, more maintenance costs for DOT for the city, and it's a ineffective way to capture water runoff when you don't have those stormwater BMP and quality control devices. So in order to do it, we would have to add permanent ponds.
You got the 2 ponds.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to use those as BMPs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These natural ponds.
Yeah, I mean, we might put a fountain in them, but I wouldn't want to use them as stormwater quality ponds.
But
They can get sediment in them.
if you're
so-
going towards 300, wouldn't you think that people expect to have
It's a pretty pond.
Yeah.
curb and gutter?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
There's not curb and gutter right down the road.
yeah, I mean, like I said, the farm at Lake Grant,
Treat
one of our highest neighbor, I mean, $900 million homes, and no, it's just ribbon pavement. I mean, but
Do you have curb and gutter in your neighborhood?
I live on
We
Higgy
don't.
Road, so
Yeah,
I
we
don't have it.
You live
Well,
on
we
that
don't. I
road?
live on
What
Old
are
Dock
they?
Court, right next to it, or literally right around the corner from her, and I don't.
And they
Lake
did,
County, I mean.
It's a county thing. It's
we
not-
don't have an
it's not
HOA.
required. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
no,
But would you rather have curb and gutter or an open area with 72 acres?
curb and gutter,
Would you?
absolutely. Just looking at sales data within 2 miles of, and to be honest with you, I've got it on my spreadsheet. I can't remember if it's at your house or at my house, but within 2 miles. Basically, you're capturing that sales data around there. The most popular, when you're looking at 0 to 6 days, anything that sold within a week, guess what the most popular acreage count was?
oh, I'm sure, because you don't have this type of product out there.
Between a half acre and a whole acre, okay? When you're looking at 0.1 to 0.4, only 1 sold within a week. In fact, only 5 total sold in 2 mile radius. So,
But again, are those fair calculations based on the green space, based on the ponds, based on the trails, based on?
no, we're talking about just acreage,
Oh.
like
Size.
the real
All
estate.
right, okay,
We're talking about
okay,
resale
okay,
data.
I'm sorry.
Which, I mean, I'll be happy to share this with you. It's MLS, but it's just showing that when you've got a hot product, people are really what's going to sell and fly off the shelves is an opportunity for people to improve upon their home, and
So
it gets
yeah,
people to
I mean,
stay in there. Like Scott, how long have you lived there?
16 years.
To me, that improves the community when you don't have, like for instance, I sold a townhome in June to a 50-something couple, and in August I got a call. I've got to get out of here. I feel like I'm living in a shoebox. My neighbors see everything I do. There's no space for me to park. So whenever you have family get-togethers, you're parking on the street, so then you're in violation of an HOA. So their quality of life decreased whenever they downsized. And
I
so,
mean,
so
I don't disagree that you have market data that leads you to your opinion. I would have market data that leads me to mine. For instance, active adult is a hedge against inflation, is a hedge against rising interest rates. About 40% of the buyers are cash buyers or reverse mortgage buyers, so it actually doesn't figure inward. So, but the point being, all that aside, you could advise your client to not dump $20,000 into their kitchen because you don't think it would make their house sell well, but they would still be entitled to do that with that land use plan. So we might disagree on the product, but we're talking about the land use itself. Yeah.
And I think the zoning board and county commissioners, they'll be addressing the land use.
Yeah, that's all they can do.
Right, they can't address prices or style of homes, or legally, they can't answer those questions.
Right.
They'll just say yes or no to what Mr. Lyons has proposed, right? I mean, they'll vote and.
All right.
Correct.
I mean, they'll listen to everybody's comments, and, but they can't, make a decision legally saying, well, you can only sell this price of home, or you can do this or that.
You can legally put an airport on this piece of property without having. to
And a
go
cell
to-
phone tower.
And a cell phone tower, and a low-end explosives.
Yeah.
But
Dog kennel.
you're not proposing that. And-
No.
And that's what.
That's my backup use if this fails.
He's
You
joking.
mean you tell everybody tomorrow
We-
night
we-
that
I wouldn't
way
let
they
him
go
do that.
forward?
No,
No,
No.
but what you're
Really good big
proposing
one.
is what
Yeah.
the board is gonna be voting on.
yes,
This
and
plan.
this plan
Yeah,
itself,
This plan.
not just the zoning,
Nothing
tied to
else.
this plan.
Not,
Time
not
is
the
playing.
change.
With the conditions that we laid out about you and
Yep.
Mrs. Moon.
And that, there's a gentleman that got up and spoke about, talking about, well, there's an opportunity for some commercial space, but that is not true. This plan right here, which is all residential.
If down the road you decided to change, you would have to go back to the planning board,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
We'd have to go back to county commissioners, but at that point,
Down the
once we
road.
get through the first phase of development, everything is tied in together in your homeowners association open space calculations, that I don't even think legally you could go back and change it at that point.
Was I correct in understanding that you planned to make that one of the stipulations, though?
Yes, I'm happy to add that as a condition,
That
as
it
long as
is
y'all are nice.
unacceptable
Yeah,
to turn any of it into commercial space?
correct,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, that's never been the plan from the beginning.
And honestly.
We get that,
I
but, I mean, I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
be
good,
honest, as
yeah,
a
yeah.
homeowner joining the property, it's a real fear
I've
Yeah.
got
that, of a possibility, and that's why
And things do change.
Without a doubt.
if
Yeah.
Yeah,
5 years
no,
from
I get
now,
that.
there is literally nothing there, and, well, Dollar General wants some more
Yeah.
space.
Well, that's even more reason.
Or a mattress store.
Yeah,
Family Dollar, Dollar
General.
General,
See,
They're
that's even,
everywhere.
everywhere.
that's even more reason to go with the MXR because it has to incorporate that. If someone got this approved and halfway through they decide to stop it and cut a line through it and they want to go rezone this part of it commercial, they can do that. Because you don't have to have CCRs, you don't have to have restrictions that you have to have with this. You don't have to have open space calculations. So if someone just wanted to do a neighborhood, I changed my mind, let's put a commercial center
Industrial
right.
building.
They can do it on this, they can't do it on this plan.
And that's what I was trying to explain here, same thing with those 5 acres I have up front.
Yeah, you gave it
I'm not sure everybody got that.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
I
they
didn't
did. I
say
tried to
one.
talk to that gentleman before we talked. I tried to tell him, well, this is the plan. And I think Brad Coe, who got up and spoke, he understands now more than the other week that we need to address that. there's
Well,
no-
I honestly didn't expect opposition
Yeah, we
too,
didn't.
but I was wrong.
At least
Well,
you
I
met
think
me.
You got
it's
me.
the shock, it was the shock of
Yeah,
that many homes. I think in my mind, I've
It was a
lived there
shock all
38
those homes
years.
going in, that's where
and,
you're at, too.
I had hopes,
Cause see, I've been
and I
on that
had
road, it
told
was a
the
dirt road.
Brian,
Oh, I cut down Hackey Track like I was on Dukes of Hazzard.
yeah,
I sure
and
did.
100 homes.
Unfortunately, golf courses are closing, we're building on one right now.
yeah.
And or you know, a home
Oh, yeah.
on an acre or an acre and a half of land. I think that's what people probably had envisioned.
Because I
And,
know that people will buy. I have
Yeah.
so many people who are so miserable saying, "There's nothing for us to buy, and I want to buy something to be able to improve upon."
Well, this
And I
is
thought-
selling a lot around the triad. So,
In North Davidson's hot.
But that's just what I wanted to let you know. I think that's what the neighbors that I
No,
know.
you're right. It was totally my mistake. And I'll even say this: I was gonna go to all my family's in Houston. I was gonna go to the Houston's Red Sox baseball game in Houston tomorrow night because one of my best friends got me tickets, and I had to cancel for planning board.
We'll
tomorrow
go.
night.
It's okay. You go ahead and go.
If you committed to not going, I would probably still fly out tonight. But, yeah,
He would too.
yeah, I probably would.
It's funny,
But,
and your property is adjacent, and you and I just live up the road. You guys actually, you border the property, and you live do you live on Hagee or,
He's my back door neighbor.
so you live on backdoor neighbors, so,
This your backdoor neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were her husband.
no,
Oh,
remember we
okay.
talked about it, Jeff's her husband.
Gotcha.
So you live on Hartman?
Yes.
Okay, alright, I'm trying to think, right next to, like your backyard goes right up to the white fence, is the white fence?
Right.
Okay, alright, cause the guy on the corner, I know him, and I know the people on the other side, the guy with the race car, okay. Alright.
Alright,
I think does everyone have my cell phone number that would need it?
I've got.
You got mine, yeah.
Are you asking me to crank call you?
Yeah.
My kid wakes
I
me up
know
all
you
hours
would.
of the night. I mean,
Yeah.
They'll be in
Yeah.
Houston.
what else am I supposed to do?
No, I'm not gonna be in Houston now.
Nah,
So.
no, we, yeah.
But if someone doesn't have it, I can give it to you right now. But reach out between now and then,
Yeah.
and just let me know. But I will. I'll try to get there a little bit beforehand, but I'll certainly have an opportunity to let you know how we added those conditions and go over them with you beforehand.
And if you ever talk tomorrow, if anybody's got any questions to them all day tomorrow.
Brian's way more accessible than I am.
Yeah, right. No, we appreciate everybody coming out. Appreciate all your thoughts. I mean, this is your community too, and I think we addressed a lot of them. And I know how much time they spent on this plan. I think it's gonna be a beautiful project.
okay.
Thank you for coming.